Hi everyone. I hope you can hear and see us. And I have my colleague Deepika with me. We're so glad to have you join us for today. So, our topic today is about striking the right balance between innovation and security of AI, particularly Gen AI. So, AI has the potential to bring many benefits to society. However, for the opportunities of AI to be fully realized, it must be developed, deployed, and operated in a secure and responsible way. So, this is our agenda for today. We will explore the security threat landscape of Gen AI. So, only when we understand the threat landscape can we build secure and robust AI systems that can withstand attacks, and systems that are free from vulnerabilities. Then we will explore data security and privacy principles, which are crucial for preventing data breaches and misuse of sensitive or private data. Lastly, issues like biases and hallucinations need to be eliminated, and this is achieved through governance and compliance. So let's start with an overview of Gen AI. You might have heard of all of these terms: artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and of course, generative AI. Now, AI, in the simplest of terms, is any technique that enables computers to mimic human intelligence. Machine learning is a subset of AI that uses complex statistical techniques to enable computers to learn from data. You can think of machine learning as learning from a textbook where clear instructions and examples guide the understanding. It can be thought of as learning from experience. Natural language processing and object recognition are some common examples of deep learning. And generative AI is the newest kid on the block, and it is a type of deep learning where new content is generated based on existing content that the model has been trained on. So all of you must have used ChatGPT or other Gen AI tools for one time or another. What do you routinely use them for? Creative writing, content creation, research and analysis. How about fashion advice? Now, if ChatGPT gets the answer wrong occasionally, there is no major harm done unless you're using it to produce jokes for your talk, and those jokes are so bad that no one in the audience laughs at them. That will be embarrassing. So, on a serious note, imagine a scenario where a self-driving car sees a stop sign, but misinterprets it as a speed limit. At an intersection, the car just continues forward and collides with an oncoming vehicle. That could result in a tragedy. And this is not hypothetical, this is a real risk. So, real life usage of AI can have catastrophic consequences if AI misbehaves. So, this is all to say that security of AI is a serious concern. Now, according to a recent study done by IBM's research arm, the Institute of Business Value, 64% of the executives who were surveyed uh, feel pressure to adopt generative AI. But 84% of them have concerns about security. They see it as a number one roadblock to adopting Gen AI. And as we just discussed, they are right to be concerned. So the obvious question is, how do we balance innovation with security? And the short answer to that is that cybersecurity and AI missions must support each other. So cybersecurity concepts need to be applied to the various aspects of Gen AI. Now, protecting Gen AI systems requires us to look at three crucial aspects, which are mentioned on the left here under security for AI. So, securing AI involves securing the
Vani,
underlying.
can you use headphones?
Yeah.
Two people have been telling audio is breaking up a little.
I am using headphones.
Okay.
Okay. So, securing AI I hope it's better now. Securing underlying training data, securing model development, and securing the usage of AI models. On the other hand, when the pace of innovation is high, as is the case with Gen AI, so security can often take a back seat. Fortunately, AI itself can come to the rescue here. So AI can help us fortify cybersecurity. AI can analyze data to detect threats early, automate incident responses for faster, more effective mitigation, and ease the workload on human operators. That is AI for security, which is shown on the right side here. Now, we have all come across such headlines in the news. As working professionals, we don't want our companies to end up on primetime news like this. And as a society, we don't want our social fabric to break down in the face of unethical AI. So the onus is on all of us to champion responsible and ethically. Regardless of your industry or profession, it's important to understand the risks and potential of Gen AI because no industry or profession will remain unaffected by this transformative technology. Okay, so security is important. We got that. But how do we secure Gen AI? Now, the first step towards that is to understand the security threat landscape, design robust defenses, AI unique character. And for that, we need to understand the different stages of an AI pipeline and the attack vectors in each stage. If we can secure the AI pipeline, we can build secure and trustworthy AI. And the AI pipeline here refers to the end-to-end process of developing, deploying, and maintaining AI systems. So it has three core stages: data collection and handling, model development and training, and finally model inference and live use. In addition, the infrastructure on which the AI systems are built and run needs to be secured. So this infrastructure typically runs in the cloud, and the usual cloud security principles apply here. Covering that part today because our focus is on the AI components. And lastly, there are AI guardrails, right? AI governance, which ensures and enforces responsible AI. Deepika will be covering AI governance in her portion of the talk. Moving on, let's dive into some of the attack vectors and threats across these three stages that we talked about. So the first stage is data collection and handling. A company's data is its crown jewels, the asset that it derives the most value from. For the same reason, it is also a gold mine for attackers. And strong data security is key regardless of whether it involves AI or not. However, Gen AI's hunger for massive, diverse data amplifies the risk. And because the amount of data that Gen AI needs to learn complex relationships and generate new content far outweighs any other type of data usage historically. And in this case, AI can be leveraged to protect the data. So it can act as a smart secretary who can organize the data with labels like confidential, personal, or health data, and then appropriate security policies can be enforced on the different data sets based on their criticality. So Deepika will be covering the end-to-end data management in her section, so we won't go into it in too much detail here. Now, the next stage of the pipeline is the model development and training. So expertise to build their own models. They download pre-trained models from public repos like Hugging Face and use them. While these models while these repos reduce development effort, lack security in these repos creates a backdoor for attackers, and anyone using these models can become a potential supply chain attack target. And then again, there are other types of attacks like privilege escalation, where if the AI systems are given access, then attackers can inflict a lot of damage if they are able to compromise these permissions. So how do we protect against these risks? So you might be familiar with DevSecOps. DevSecOps applied to AI model development is MLSecOps. Now, this includes best practices for secure model development and training. For example, vulnerability and malware scanning, and discovery of and hardening of third-party dependencies used in the AI systems. Again, use AI to protect the model itself. So, for example, AI can aid in blocking supply chain attacks on AI systems through ongoing monitoring, anomaly detection, and automated threat response. Moving on to the final stage of the pipeline, which is inferencing and live use. So the primary attack techniques here include prompt injection, denial of service, and model theft. So solutions like AI firewalls can be implemented to monitor and filter incoming data and prompts before they reach the AI system. Another class of solutions is machine learning detection and response, or MLDR for short. So they can monitor the behavior of AI systems for any malicious activity. For example, they can detect and block prompts that can cause sensitive data leakage in the output. Another best practice in this stage is adversarial training, which involves deliberately exposing the model to recognize such input. Now, here also use AI to protect AI. As an example, AI can be used to generate adversarial examples that can be used during the adversarial training. And it's also important to continuously monitor model's performance uh, and identify potential misuse. Now, we have covered the three stages of the pipeline, and we have seen examples of some types of attacks that can occur in these stages. Let's see a real life example of one such attack. So imagine you're using a GenAI based image generator, something like DALI or Midjourney. You give it a prompt, give me the blue sky, and it generates this image for you, an egg against the blue sky. So you're left wondering what happened. This is the result of data poisoning. So it's data used to train an AI model, and models that are trained on open source or public data are easier to poison for obvious reasons, right? Because the data access is it's easier to. Now, applying data security principles to the training data is the key to countering this attack. So what happened in our example here, many image generators are trained by scraping online images, and these images can be under copyright. So artists are fighting theft and misuse of their work using data poisoning. So in this case, data poisoning works by subtly altering the images so that they don't look any different to human eyes, but they confuse the computer vision. So an AI model trained on such poison data can start returning unpredictable and unintended results, like we saw here. So that's all about the threat landscape of Gen AI. Over the stage to Deepika to cover the data security and privacy and governance and compliance. Over to you, Deepika.
Thank you, Vani. So, hi everybody. I hope my audio is clear. So, I will be covering the topic of data security and privacy, and as well as followed by AI governance and all of the compliance aspects around it, right? So we have seen a little bit of introduction and then security threat landscape. So moving forward. So this is more of a self-explanatory, right? So most of the companies even today, they kind of struggle with their fundamental data challenges. So be it like data is stored in multiple locations in various different applications, different clouds, living actually 82% of the organization, they are inhabited by these data silos. So not only that, so to kind of add to more complexity to these problems, use of data has also become more varied with poor quality and complex form. So these things are just going to get worse. According to International Data Corporation, which is IDC, so this stored data is expected to grow like 250% in coming years. So these growing volumes of data being in silos not only kind of pose these challenges to the data governance and compliance, but they also drive up our cost associated with storing the data, managing the data for analytics and different AI. Right? So moving on. So coming to the data management of these, right? So how do we address these data problems? So we need to, you might have heard about zero trust data security and how crucial it is to strengthen our AI initiatives, right? So the answer to managing the data is to have a robust data management lifecycle. So when it comes to building the trust, security, so these various practices, they will enforce the strict data policies across the various data management so that we have a resilient defense mechanism against all of the risk like bias or errors, right? So what you see here are 5 different phases which will start from discover, wherein with the help of machine learning, we uncover a lot of hidden data. So this data can be scattered across different platforms, classifying and monitoring every step of this sensitive piece of information meticulously. So these various 5 stages, they kind of intersect and overlap with each other. So in the interest of understanding them, we can see them as separate here. But if you see, once we gather the data, we apply a lot of rigorous protection measures on top of it, just like having the real-time monitoring and encryption so that we are preventing any kind of unauthorized access there. So think of it like just our any traffic surveillance systems, right? So traffic surveillance systems, if they are powered by machine learning, so they kind of act as our vigilant sentinels. Basically, they detect the anomalies, they detect the threats even much before they become serious. So this kind of protective and proactive measure across all the life cycle is important so that we stay ahead. So when we do this, we monitor, and let's say we have some real-time breach that has happened, then we already are capable to analyze them so that we are able to respond quickly. So that's where you have the 4th and 5th stage, wherein if there are any potential risks, they're using these techniques that are there, like using the anomaly detection techniques or using the various tools which will ensure if there is any intrusion attack or any decisive action to be taken. So these phases will help us to analyze and to respond quickly. Okay. So moving on. So now we all come. Okay, okay, let's have one slide extra. So what you see in this comic strip, right? So this is by Scott Adams. He's the creator of Dilbert, we all know. So basically the humor here lies in multiple things, right? So if you take a few seconds to read it, there are some ethical limitations of AI assistant here, right? So the chat GPT or any other large language model you can think of, it's unable to answer the question about how to murder someone, right? Because it would be unethical. But at the same time, there is a contrast between wherein, even though they have advanced capabilities of AI, there are some limitations wherein the assistant can kind of access and process the information to create a realistic fictional story. So it cannot engage in potentially causing the harm. However, to it though it cannot commit the crime, there are lots of risks and challenges. So this is one of them, right? Let's move on. So not only that, right? So some of other ethical challenges that are posed by AI will include various inherent bias. So which means just like society, just like how people do, that means they might not treat everyone fairly. So is AI. There might be biases that often come from various data that we use to teach AI. So it reflects the bias. So is the AI. So it not only that, it kind of amplifies the bias, right? For example, let's say we have taken training data based on this conference, let's say where there are significant one kind of population here. So if we make a hiring decisions, for example, then the decisions may be biased against certain groups. The AI might learn from it and can carry over that bias in the future predictions. So that means even the foundational models, they are the big brains of AI, they can bring in a lot of these problems, creating fake information, creating information that is not giving credit to its sources. What we also we have seen some examples wherein AI imagine things, right? It will not stick to the truth. It will make it a very hard to trust, hallucinate, and sometimes it has this toxic content like hate speech or bullying or unable to reason why it made some wrong decision. So these are some risks and challenges, and let's see how we can address that in coming slides. So that, looking at these various risks and challenges and the data implications with ever growing data, which means we need some kind of regulations, right? So that we unanimously agree. So what you see, can you go back to the previous slide? So
I think we're
lot
short
of,
on time.
sorry.
We're short on time. I have been 2.5 minutes. So
Okay, sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. So a lot of these regulations are coming together, which will kind of, the one such example here is the EU Act, which will, look upon all of these pillars, like ensuring there is fairness, there is just like how we have referee in a game, or be it like, keeping students in line like a teacher, wherein we know the transparency and accountability. So let's move on and see how AI governance can build that trust. Okay, so thank you. So when we talk about elements of building a responsible AI, which is empowered with AI governance, there are three stages to it. One is the life cycle governance, which is like a parent guiding the child throughout the stages, even though the child can think on its own, right? So making sure that tools are coming together, data is coming together to keep a track of everything. Then the second portion is the risk management, wherein problems can happen, but there should be somebody who can oversee that, who is qualified to catch any bias, changes that could happen that can cause the trouble, right? So this is the risk management portion of it, which should be taken care by AI governance. And next one is the compliance part of it. So just like how we follow certain rules in a game, we have to stick to the policies, industry regulations, and laws, so that it kind of translate these complicated data related requirements into some simple guidelines that we all can follow. So that's the gist of AI governance, wherein we have a unified approach when we build the AI governance with all these elements in mind. Okay, let's move on. So lastly, one slide back. So these are some of the problems on the left hand side. What you see, there are some problems with AI policies, responsible practices, etc. On the right hand side, we have given some solutions how we can make sure these challenges are taken into consideration and converted into the opportunities that we can innovate and we can trust, so that we can build the transparency in AI systems. Okay, so these slides will be shared for later consumption. You can look at the solutions proposed for the various personas and scenarios. So let's go to the last slide. Okay, so in summary, I know it was a little fast, but what we have learned right now is, first element is to, around understanding our AI exposure. Know the current and the future trends of your data, any associated risk with it. Ensure there is a risk management based on the threats and vulnerabilities that are there around the data centric, be it depends on whether it is sensitive data or different kinds of data that you have, and ensuring that ML dev SecOps is in place, wherein you are securing this entire AI pipeline, which means you are securing not just the data and associated model, and also how it is getting used at all stages, whether it is in use with transit or in data or at rest or in use, right? And once we have established these things, we move on to the AI governance, which will ensure that there is life cycle management of that, there are policies and procedures and around that, so that our compliance initiatives can be utilized in order to ensure they are standard and any regulatory changes can be accommodated easily. So, right, so we try to cover this and use the AI to do the security better. So there are two aspects to it: have the security on AI and use the AI for security. So deploy the AI threat detection models and in the pipeline, and use all of these AI elements to speed up the security task and the routine task, which will ensure there is a striking this right balance between the security and AI. Thank you so much for all of your time. Any questions? We'll open up for the floor for all of you. Thank you, Vani. Thank you, team.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. And hope you have a good day and you enjoy the conference.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.